Carol and Cheryl, Cheryl and Carol, Carol and Cheryl. Welcome back to Conversations with Carol and Cheryl. It's been a minute. How are you, Carol?
Hey, Cheryl, I miss you.
I miss you too. Man, you're living the life.
Yeah, I'm down here in sunny Florida, just having fun, going out and playing every day, and it's wonderful. I love it.
Wow.
But the party's about to end. I'm coming back next week, so.
Okay. So what have you been doing? Kayaking, swimming, paddle
Yes.
boarding, bike riding,
Jet skiing.
skiing. And what are you sitting on now?
My ass.
No, up higher. What are you leaning on?
My ice pack.
I was wondering when that was going to happen and I was going to get hold of you.
Oh my God, yes. I'm not the spring chicken I think I am.
You're in great shape. So I wanted to bring up something. I remember one time you told me that back in the day you were a sugar baby.
Mm-hmm.
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 And you had a sugar daddy?
I did have a sugar daddy.
Okay, well, I'd like to hear a little bit about it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's an interesting story. Let me just preface it by saying, some people might think that this is a pedophile story or, I don't know, a creeper or something like that. And I just want to say in the beginning, it was not like that. And I'll get into the details of the story, but it is very weird, even for me to tell it. And I think it's going to be hard for our listeners to really understand it in a way that it really happened without judging. But, I'll put it out there anyway. And maybe there's other women or men that can identify with it, or just open your mind. And it's not normal, but it's not weird either.
All right. Well, we'll be the judge.
Yeah.
I'll be judging you the whole
Okay.
time.
Just judge
I'll
me.
let you know.
So I was about, I don't know, somewhere between 19 and 21. And I had dropped out of college. I was going to community college. I dropped out of college and I was working as a waitress at Friendly's restaurant.
Oh. Where your manager told you to smile and it worked.
Smile. It was one of my favorite jobs looking back. I think we've talked about it before. So anyway, I had bought this car from my dad, a 1975 Coupe de Ville Cadillac. So that would be called a hoopty today. So I had a hoopty. And one day I was driving it at a pretty high speed, maybe 50 miles an hour. And the hood flew open right in front of me. So I'm driving down the highway and bam, this big hood flies open. So I pull over safely, close the hood. And when I closed it, I don't know how I did this because I must have had some superhuman strength, but the corner of the hood got stuck somehow like underneath the windshield. And when I closed it, it bent the corner and it wouldn't close properly. So I don't know how I did that. It was dumb. I wasn't paying attention. I don't know. It was just a random freak thing. So the next day at work, I'm talking to one of the waitresses and I'm like, I need to get this car repaired. I need to get this hood fixed or get a new one. And she's like, oh, you need to talk to my customer, Frank. She's like, you know him. He comes in every day with his brother. I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about. She goes, I'll introduce you. And you just tell him what happened, and I think he can help you. Okay. So to me, it's like all synchronicity. It's coming together. And sure enough, the guy walks in. I had never seen him before, but apparently he came in every day. I just didn't notice. And he sits in her section and she calls me over and she introduces me. And she's like, Frank, this is Carol. Carol, this is Frank. and Carol has a car problem. So she takes their drink order, and I'm telling him about what happened. I'm driving down the road. I bent my hood. Is there something that you can do to help me with this? Do you have any advice? So he's like, yeah. He's like, I can help you with that. Why don't we meet for lunch tomorrow and talk about it? And of course, I'm rolling my eyes, going, yeah, okay, knowing that this is like a come on, but I need to get the car fixed. And lunch sounds great. So he tells me to meet him at this kind of a fancy restaurant in another town, like 2 towns over. So we meet, and of course, we're the only ones in the restaurant. And I don't even have dress up clothes to go to a nice restaurant. I'm a waitress, I'm 20-year-old college dropout. But anyway, so we go, we have a really nice lunch. I order the most expensive thing on the menu, and he's telling me about himself, and I'm telling him about my car problem. And he's like, he goes, yeah, tomorrow I can order a new hood for you. We'll just get one at a junkyard. I'll put it on. We'll paint it. I can paint it the same color as your car, and you'll be good to go. And I'm like, wow, I would really appreciate that. And I'm like, how much is that going to cost? And he's like, I don't know, like $150. I'm like, wow, okay, cool. So we finish lunch, and he goes, do you want to come to my house and see my horses? And I'm like, what? Like, you have horses? I'm like, okay. Now, at this point, he could have been a creeper, and got me on his property and buried my body in 6 different places, and nobody would have known it. But I just had a feeling that he was a really nice person. And I know that's stupid. And what do you know at 19 or 20? You don't know. So that was kind of dumb. So anyway, we drive to his house, and he has this gorgeous piece of property, this beautiful stone house with a slate roof. And the house just went on and on and on with lead windows. And apparently it was the carriage house to the mansion, or the main house that was sold to another person. The property was split up, and he bought the carriage house. So it had all these horse stalls and big open rooms with cathedral ceilings, but none of it was finished. It was like a stone structure with these open spaces. And then the house, the living part, was very, very small, just like 2 or 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, very small kitchen. So anyway, we go down and look at the horses. He had 4 horses, and they came right up to me, and I'm petting them. And like, I didn't know what I was doing with horses. I'm not really a horse person. Then he had a dog, and I'm not a dog person, never had a dog in my life. Then he had a cat. I'm like, okay, I can deal with the cat. So he had all of these animals. Obviously he was a lot older than me, and I didn't really know how much older he was, but he told me that he was married and that his wife had passed away 3 months earlier from cancer. Wow. So you could tell, like, he was kind of lonely and wanted company, wanted some excitement. I think he really just wanted somebody to talk to. I know that sounds kind of naive. Of course, he wanted to have sex. So did I. But that wasn't really the basis of our relationship. He really just wanted some intimacy and somebody to talk to.
When you say he wanted to have sex, and so did you, were you attracted to him? Like,
yes, I was very attracted to him.
When did you become attracted to him? Like at over lunch or at Friendlies, or when?
Yeah, I mean, he was a pretty good looking guy. I thought he looked like Robert De Niro. So, he was Italian. He had that Mediterranean brown skin, and he had a beard. I have a really bad beard fetish. So, he had some of my check boxes.
Okay.
So anyway, we just like hung out the whole day. We were on his property, we hung out, and then of course I'm going to say we tried to have sex, but he just couldn't do it. He
That
couldn't.
day?
Yeah.
Okay, girl.
Hey, I'm not going to waste any time. Anyway, so he couldn't perform. He told me it had been 7 years since he had had any sex at all because his wife was very, very ill and he
Mm.
was taking care of her. He was her caretaker, and that was pretty much his focus of his life. So I guess he was out of practice and he felt horrible about it, was apologizing, and I think he felt really embarrassed. I talked him down. I'm like, this is not a big deal. It's fine. We're just going to practice and it'll come. Don't worry about it. So after that, I moved in with him and we spent the next 8 years together.
Okay. You move. Okay, so you moved in with him after the first date.
Within the first month, yeah.
Okay. And did you go out on dates in between that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got together every day and hung out and did stuff.
Okay. So it was just real comfortable fit, both attracted to each other, even though there
Yeah.
was an age difference,
Right.
and just like hit it off right away.
Yep.
Okay.
So the age difference, let's talk about that. I think I was 19 when we met. I think we met in April and I turned 20 in September. And he was 59.
Wow. Okay. Definitely sugar baby.
Definitely. Definitely. I
Were
loved
you
it.
always attracted to older men? Was that something that you liked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I still am. Except now I'm the age of the guys that I'm attracted to.
Oh my gosh.
I've caught up with myself.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Okay.
so when I say that, like, what's your first impression?
Not so much the age gap, how quick you guys got together is more surprising than the age gap. And then the idea that he had made it a date from the moment he saw you. I thought you were going to tell me. I mean, we talked about this, but not in detail. So I thought it was going to be like over a series of dates, but he had the date already lined up the first time to talk to you about that car.
Mm-hmm.
All
And he
right.
did fix my car, by the way.
Oh.
And he
I
didn't
hope
make
so.
and he didn't make me give him the $150.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Okay. So yeah, all right.
a normal day for us. So he was retired and I was a waitress at Friendly's. Like I said, we met in April. So that first summer, we just really just hung out. I worked. He didn't work. Like a normal day, we'd get up. He would let the dog out, feed the horses, make my coffee. And if it was bad weather, he would drive me to work. I think our favorite thing to do together was watch Regis and Kathy Lee.
Oh my
We'd
gosh.
have our
Okay.
coffee and watch Regis, and then The Price is Right, and then I would go to work. So that was like our morning routine. So that went on for the summer. Then in September, enrolled back in college. So I was going to classes, and he had a little part-time business that he was doing. He had some antique cars and a wood stove shop, and he would tinker around and go down to the shop, and his brothers would come and all these guys would come and hang out, and they'd have their coffee and whatever. So I went to my classes and I did that for 4 years. Just went to classes, did my homework, and then in between hung out with him. If it was bad weather, he would drive me to my classes. We couldn't really travel because of all the animals that we had, but I wasn't the type of person that wanted to zoom off somewhere. I was really, really happy watching The Price is Right and doing my schoolwork. Now, our families, of course, we were together so long, our families, of course, overlapped. I met his family, he met my family. And I think everybody thought it was weird, but nobody tried to talk us out of it too much. Like
Oh,
my family, they were so glad to get rid of me. My parents, I was the oldest out of 5 kids. I'm sure somebody got my bedroom. I was probably out 5 minutes and somebody was moving into my bedroom. You know how that goes. I wasn't the easiest teenager. So my parents were like, good luck, have fun with that, and go do your thing. You go do you. And they weren't necessarily approving of it, but they didn't fight about it either. They didn't try and talk me out of it. And then his family, they were very, very worried that I was going to be a gold digger and try and get his money, and I wasn't.
was he rich?
He had money. He had grandchildren my age.
You,
So,
you had grandchildren your age?
yeah.
Okay.
So the kids and the grandchildren were definitely threatened by me, but I don't think they tried to break us up in the background.
And they weren't mean to you or anything like that?
They weren't nice to me and they weren't mean to me.
Okay.
They were civil. But, as the years went on, it got harder and harder with the families. And that left a big impression on me that my next man, his family will not live anywhere in the state. Forget about the town, like the state.
Right.
And Butch's family did not live anywhere near us. That was a checkbox for me because I just did not want to deal with people's family.
Right.
Too hard for me.
I don't think people really realize that when they're young and you say you marry them, you marry their family. I mean, no truer words have ever been spoken.
Right.
So you better make sure you like the biggest pain in the ass in their family, that you can tolerate them at their worst because it's going to get worse. So go ahead.
No, you're right. And that played into our relationship and it definitely added stress. I think people saw us together and saw that we really liked each other and that we were compatible and really enjoyed being together because we were together all the time. I was in school, he was retired. We were together all the time.
Wow. And you had an 8-year relationship, right?
Yeah, we were
Like,
together for 8 years.
it's like a marriage.
It really was. And it was my whole 20s,
Wow.
from 19 to 28 or 20 to 28. And then when I left, we still kept in touch for another year or two after that. So it was like a decade, really, my
Yeah.
20s. So some people would say, wow, you totally wasted your 20s on that. You could have met your husband and whatever. But I never looked at it as having a future. I just looked at it as one day at a time. I'm going to get my degree. We're going to have some fun. I got a job when I graduated college, got a job locally, was working full time. I was able to bank all of my paycheck. So I worked for like a year or 2 years in this job and banked all of that money.
Wow.
So that was great. That was a plus. So what I learned from the relationship, I think kind of defined me for the rest of my life. Some of the takeaways that I got out of it, some of the gifts.
Hmm.
So he was a car dealer and he was a landlord. So I would go with him to collect the rents. I would go with him to car auctions. He would advertise antique cars. People would come over and I would watch him negotiate. I would watch him make a deal. I would watch him collect rents and have hard conversations with people who couldn't pay their rent or give people breaks. He was very compassionate and generous. So if somebody couldn't pay, he would give them a month for free. But not everybody, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I learned so much from just watching him deal with people because I mean, I could smile at the restaurant. That's where I was at. Like you greet a customer and you smile. That's where I was at with my skill set, you know. So
Right.
watching him in action was just the greatest gift. And I emulated that in my life when I started buying a property or on a job interview or buying a car. I was not intimidated at all. That was some of the gifts. But then what happened was, I think when I graduated college, he became very insecure that I was no longer dependent on him, that I could support myself, I could become independent. And he was just really insecure that I was going to leave. He's like, "You're going to leave me." He was also really jealous. Like, if other guys even looked at me, he would just freak out.
Was he like that all the time, or was it just after you had graduated college?
Well, I think it was all the time, but he knew like I wasn't going to leave because I'm in school. So he knew for 4 years that this is probably going to work out for 4 years while I'm in school. But once I graduated, it changed the dynamic. And then he was full Sicilian Italian. And I don't know if you've ever been around somebody like that, but they're very intense, passionate people. And that's great in bed. And that's great when you're making a deal. But when you're mad at somebody and you're that passionate and intense,
Oh my God.
it's not so fun.
Right.
So the insecurity just kept escalating. And it just got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. I'm like, this isn't working. This isn't working for me.
Was it verbally abusive or just
It was just it wasn't even abuse. It was just what I call puffing.
okay?
You know, the puffing. There's
Right.
puff, puff, puff. So yes, he would totally lose it. He would totally lose his shit. And he'd be screaming and whatever and with the hands, but I wouldn't call it abuse.
Hmm.
It wasn't abusive. He was just going off, you know,
Right.
puffing. I call it puffing.
Right.
So just the puffing was more often and more illogical. And I just couldn't convince him that, you know, no, I'm not going to leave. No, I'm not going to sleep with some other guy. But he just had all these insecurities to the point where it ruined our relationship.
Self-fulfilled prophecy.
Yeah. So he told me to leave. In the end, he's like, "Get out. This isn't working. Just get out. You're making me crazy." So I left and I moved from New York to Virginia.
Oh, you really left.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, bye. So then he would call me, "Come back. I miss you. I didn't mean it. I love you." So I would go up and visit him, mainly, you know, to see the animals, honestly. And then he offered me money, a lot of money to come back. He's like, "I'm going to give you this money and I'll pay for you to go to law school. I want you to come back." And I'm like, "You can't buy me." I was so mad. Probably the maddest I've ever been in my life. I'm like, "You think you can buy me?" And that works with everybody, but that doesn't work with me. What I want doesn't cost money.
Right.
You know, what I want is respect. What I want is for you to trust me. What I want is a calm environment to live in without a bunch of puffing. That doesn't cost money. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Hmm.
And I didn't want to go to law school. He wanted to go to law school, but I didn't. So that
Right.
was like his dream. That wasn't my dream. It had a beginning, middle, and end. And I moved out, and I think it took a lot of courage for me to leave because it was such a secure situation
Right.
financially.
And not take that money. Damn, that would have been a big hook for me.
You would have been all
Okay.
over.
You can buy me.
You would have been like, okay, well, I went shopping and I have stuff in the cart, but I haven't paid for it yet.
Right.
I'm going to push complete transaction.
Yeah, that would have been pretty tempting.
Yeah, so I mean, he was my first lover. He really was, and it was great.
Wow.
It was really great, and I learned so much about myself. And it was weird, but it just happened. I didn't plan it, and we were really attracted to each other. We were best friends.
Well, he's a good-looking guy. You showed me
Yeah,
a picture, and he is looks like Robert De Niro, but he's a good-looking guy.
he was. He was just a very good person,
Hmm.
inside and out, until he wasn't.
Right. Right. Well, that's good then that you have no regrets, I guess, because it was such a long relationship that maybe looking back, if it was like a year, maybe you would feel differently. Like you were saying, it wasn't creepy, it wasn't this.
Yeah.
But I think what makes you secure about that is that it was a long relationship. You would have hung in there if he didn't start puffing, and it sounds like you were in there what 3 or 4 years with the
Yeah.
puffing till it got
Yeah.
too much.
I guess if I had a regret, it was just that I was so young and so inexperienced that I think I could have navigated the family situation a lot better. I could have been a lot better person with the family and
Hmm.
dealing with the conflict. But I didn't have the experience or the know how. It was just conflict, and I didn't know how to navigate that.
So, what did the waitress think that introduced you?
Um, well, what happened was I ended up quitting that job, and
Okay.
they were like, "Go, girl, you go." They couldn't believe it.
Oh my gosh, that's
I
funny.
hung up my apron and said, "See ya."
Oh my gosh.
I did have one customer during that time that gave me a 1 penny tip.
Ugh.
And he said to me, he goes, "I don't know what you're doing here. You can be doing so much better than this." And it was really, really crazy because I knew that.
Yeah, actually, a penny tip is supposed to mean like something good, but I don't know how it's done. I don't know if it's like a big tip with a penny on it, but there's something about a penny in it meaning something positive, I think. I
Yeah.
can't remember. I may have it backwards. I'll have to look that up, but there's something I thought it was like good service, like a compliment. But it must be
Well,
on top of another tip.
yeah, it was on top of nothing.
Okay.
But the guy, he was trying to get my attention. He's like, "Why are you here?" I don't
Ugh.
know if he had been watching me or what. I can't even remember. I mean, it was whatever, 40 years ago. But it stood out to me. Anyway, so when I left, I ended up getting a job and I was only making 14,000 a year, my first job. So I walked into a struggle. I mean, it was fine, but I wasn't killing it when I left.
Hmm.
I left a really nice house and a secure situation with a lot of puffing to making $14,000 a year and
So when
going
did
to
you get the job that I met you in? How
that was
long?
it. That was
Oh,
it.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. And that turned out to be great. That turned out to be my life. So what happened was when I left, I was really scared. Like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Because I went right from my parents to him. Like I'd never really been out on my own. And it was a little bit scary. But I interviewed, I got that job. And then, of course, like everybody else, you rent a room with somebody in somebody's house when you're that age. So I rented a room and it just all worked out really well.
So then how long after all this, when you started your new job down here, did you meet Butch?
Like 3 years later.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And I had no boyfriends in between.
Okay.
I really did not want to be in another relationship. I just wanted to be on my own, get established, and not be derailed in focusing on another person.
Well, you were also going back and forth too.
Yep. We stayed together like another, I don't know, year or 2 years.
Yeah. So that was your
Remote.
social life going back and forth, kind of.
Well, I wasn't going back and forth that much, and he had already met somebody else.
How old?
Was she?
Yeah.
She was his age.
Really?
Yeah, and she ended up moving in. So what happened to him? He ended up moving in with her, and it was apparently a very explosive, abusive situation for both of them. They were both puffers. Like I wasn't a puffer. I was like
Right.
always calm, but I don't know. She was a big drinker and super passionate, crazy, and he was super passionate, crazy, and I don't think it ended well. And then he ended up having a stroke.
Wow.
And I think she was taking care of him. And I think that's what would have happened to me if I had stayed. I
Oh,
would have
yeah.
ended up taking care of him, which I would have happily done. I loved him. I would have done anything. But like I said, there was no future there for me. It's not like we were going to have kids together or get married. Neither one of us wanted to. It was a relationship of convenience for both of us. We both knew that it was never going to last. That wouldn't have been fair to me. And he said that. That's not fair to you. Yeah, so he ended up having the stroke and then he passed away.
How long did he live after the stroke?
Um, he lived maybe 6 years, 6 or
Really?
7 years. Yeah. It was
Was
a mild stroke. He actually thought he had Lyme disease, but it was a stroke.
Lyme disease was that far back?
It had just come out. And we lived like very close to Lyme, Connecticut, where it started.
So were you guys more like companions, or was it like a hot and heavy?
It was hot and
Or
heavy.
the whole time?
Yeah.
Wow.
The first year we had sex every day for the first
What?
year. Every day. It was awesome.
You and I are so opposite. It's so funny. Oh my God, really?
It was great. The sex was really great. Really great. Every day. I loved it. He
Wow.
did too. He loved
I
it too.
bet.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
really awesome. We were in a groove.
Okay, pardon the pun.
Yeah, but then that's what I'm saying. And we were really good friends. Like we totally loved hanging out and doing stuff together. We would compete at the Price is Right. And, we had this huge property. We would plant flowers and shovel manure and shovel snow, split wood, all the stuff that you have to do around the property, walk the dog, whatever. Like just simple things. We had a very simple life together, but really enjoyed each other.
Did you have friends over?
I did. We did. Yeah. He loved my friends. He really loved my friends because they were my age. He loved having the younger people around. And he'd love to cook for us. He'd invite a bunch of people over and then have a barbecue and grill up a bunch of steaks. And he loved all of my girlfriends. He really did.
Did any of your friends get with any of his friends? relationship wise?
No, no. He didn't really have a bunch of friends. He had a lot of family. So with the Italian family, they just do pop-ins. They just show up. So people would just come over, which was fine. I didn't care. But no, that didn't really happen. So yeah, it was definitely unique. And I really loved it. I have no regrets.
So
Just
you have
that
fond memories
I have a lot of fond memories, yeah.
and you don't feel taken advantage of or anything like that.
Not at all. Not at all.
I think that 8 years was like a marriage.
It really was. I mean, if you were in the room with us, you would not see the age difference. You would just see a couple. To me, it's weird now because I'm going to be 59 next
Hmm.
year. So I'm his age, and I can't even imagine being with a 20-year-old guy, what that would be like. That would be weird, but I think it would be fun too.
Yeah. It's funny because when I was younger, I had a thing for older men. Not that old, but I definitely liked older men.
Yeah.
And now that I'm old, I like younger men.
Okay.
Was it hard to give your opinion to someone that's that much older or tell them what to do or how to do something? Was he just like, yeah, uh, okay, bye bye? Like, or
No.
was that equal to? Would he take
Um,
your advice like as if you were his age? I don't think I could, like really young, I could not take them telling me what to do. It's
I
like,
didn't tell
oh,
him what to do unless we were in bed.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't tell him what to do, and I just looked up to him so much. He was so smart and such a good businessman, and he didn't always know what he was doing, but I just looked up to him. He was not looking to me for advice. I would give it to him. I would say, well, this is my opinion, or this is how I see it. And I think he listened to me and valued my opinion, but I wasn't telling him what to do. I was maybe talking him down a lot, talking him off the ledge a lot because he was so, oh, go pound salt. That guy can go pound salt up his ass. I'm like, oh my God, shut up.
Salt up his ass. Oh
Uh,
my God.
yeah.
Mamma mia, he could go
Yeah,
pound salt
that's
up his
it.
ass.
That's it.
Okay, so obviously you have a robust uh, sex life. So how was it different when you broke up? Well, when you guys broke up and then you went with younger guys, your age. I mean, you said you didn't have a boyfriend,
I didn't. I
but
just pretty much, I think I had a couple of flings in there.
your
There was,
age, right? So
yeah, and there was no like real connection. There was nothing that exciting. I went out with a couple guys, maybe three or four.
were you like, wow, this is what a young penis is like?
No, it wasn't even that great. It wasn't.
Okay, it was no different or
No, I
anything.
mean, it just wasn't as good as, no, it wasn't
Okay.
as good as with him because I loved him. I truly loved him. And I think when you really love somebody and you're not having sex, you're making love with that person. You know what I mean? It's different. It's
Right.
having a one nighter with some guy that you met or you're trying to have a relationship with, or you're hooking up with somebody that you're very passionate about and extremely attracted to and respect and love and enjoy being with. It's two different things. For me, it is anyway. And then I met Butch, and he's older than me, not by much, like 4 years older than me. Still an older man.
Is he 4 years older than you?
Yeah.
So Carol the sugar baby, huh?
Yeah, I was a sugar baby.
Was he generous?
He was so generous. Really generous. Not with just with me, but with everybody.
What
Super
sign
generous.
was he?
Oh God. He was January 5th was his birthday. So what is
Okay.
that?
I think it's Sagittarius. You know, the best horoscope book for people that are into it, I'm into it very lightly. Linda Goodman's Sun Signs. That really is what kind of made me get into it.
Hmm.
She does like the male boyfriend, the male husband, or like the Scorpio husband, the Scorpio
Yeah.
boyfriend, the Scorpio child, and it was spot on
For you?
for all of us. It was hilarious. I mean, it
Really?
was like, yeah, she described my ex-husband perfectly. She described the Pisces husband. In the book, she said Pisces have to lie, like little white lies, nothing
Mm-hmm.
big.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad would do that. Like my dad would
My
go, I'm gonna
dad's a
go.
Pisces.
Who's?
My dad.
Okay, so it was mine.
Okay.
And like he would say, I'm going to the library to drop off a book, and he'd come back smelling like the donut shop. And my mom would get so pissed at him going to the donut shop, because he
Yeah.
talked. You're in there talking to your cronies. But he would lie, and it would be like, why? And so my sister's husband's a Pisces, and she said he does the same thing. Did your dad do that?
I'm
Just
just
like
sitting here thinking about that.
just little stuff. Like I'm going to the store, but you're not. You're gonna go, to see a movie.
Hmm.
Stupid stuff.
Huh, I'll have to think about that.
That's why I was asking. That horoscope book is good. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, I was just young and dumb. If I was in a relationship with him now at my age, it would be a totally different dynamic. But we were just like two young people at heart trying to have fun. My advice to people, go for it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Okay.
Oh, another question people ask. Oh, was it a father figure? Really close with my dad, and no.
Yeah, I decided to scrap that question when you said you did it every day for a year.
Yeah,
Well, there goes the father figure part.
it was not father figure. If you feel a connection with somebody, you should go for it.
Regardless of the age.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's only love is love, and no matter, there is no age.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of creepy older guys that are stalking younger women because they're hot or they just want a one and done. There's a lot of that out there. That just was not my experience. I mean, maybe he did want that, and then it just evolved into more, you know.
Well, I have to say, you sound like the perfect companion for him. I
We
mean,
did. We had so much fun. We
yeah, you
really did.
enjoyed the animals, you liked the shows, you weren't, doesn't sound like you were wild running all over the place. You went to school, came back, did your homework. I
Yeah.
mean, it just sounds like you were very content with the lifestyle and with him.
Yeah, it was. And he was content with me. He could do his thing. You know,
Yeah.
we did travel, we did do stuff together, but that wasn't the focus. I don't think a lot of people do this, but in all of my experiences, even my struggles, I try and first ask myself, what did I learn from this? How did this make me a better person? And then what are the gifts that I got out of it? Because even in a really hard struggle, there's a gift. You
Yeah,
just have to
that's
look
true.
for it. You can still say 99% of this situation really sucked, but I got this one gift out of it.
Right.
So that's how I try and look at all my experiences. But his had such an impact on me, my business dealings.
Right. He was your mentor without you really
He was my
realizing it, and he
biggest,
wasn't trying to be, but it turned out to be a mentor.
he was my biggest teacher. Unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
how many people get that kind of a coach or mentor or teacher?
And you're a very good-hearted, kind person. And he was with you during a lot of those informative years. I
Yes.
mean, where you're starting to come into your own and form yourself as a. I mean, you're definitely not a dick. There's no negativity, no negative traits that I could see that he has left on you or thought
No,
process that he has left on you.
no.
And you can tell that. You know what I mean?
There were things that happened that I wish happened differently. You got to forgive and move on. I forgive him, and then I also forgive myself because I didn't have confidence in myself. I wasn't mature. So I made a lot of mistakes. I said things I shouldn't have said. I wasn't that mature. So I really had to forgive myself and be kind to myself because I was young. Here I'm in a relationship with this person that has a whole lifetime of experience, and I'm just starting out.
He shouldn't or couldn't have hold that against you.
He
For
didn't. I held it like you would in any relationship.
hmm
So at some point, you have to forgive yourself and say, well, I did the best I could. And I, made amends where I felt like I was wrong or hurt him and move on. And then look for the gifts. And of course, all the good memories that we had.
you're a very peaceful, giving, loving soul. So
Oh, thanks, Cheryl.
you're welcome, Carol, and I mean it. I really do.
We
I think
gotta.
you're amazing with that stuff.
We need to get you a sugar daddy so you can hit proceed with transaction on your cart.
No kidding.
When you look back on all your relationships, do you have any like big regrets or
I'm one of those people that pretty much married my very first serious boyfriend. I mean, I went on some dates and I had a high school boyfriend, but my ex-husband was my first, I'd consider him my first real serious husband. I mean, my first real serious boyfriend. And it was kind of like the same week. Once we met, that was it. We were together all the time. It's really weird. We even kind of, I mean, there was some times where we didn't get along when we were going through the divorce, but then we did. We would still talk and certain things. There was a short while where we weren't. Of course, I was pissed and all that stuff. And considering the big picture, it was short lived. Yeah, there's a lot of gifts. I have no regrets. If I had to do it all over again, I'd do it. I got the best divorce you could ever have. It's funny because I insisted we got the house that only one income could take care of. It's almost like I had a premonition or something.
yeah?
Anyway, not to get sidetracked, but yeah, I have no regrets. Everything was good, and he's a great ex-husband, I have to say. He's always there for me if I need him, and he's always been there for the kids. So it's a very, very good deal, and no stepchildren involved, which thank God for. That would be the worst. That would be the worst for me,
Yeah.
I should say. I can imagine it can really work out and be really great in a lot of instances, if everyone's on board and everyone's great together. But for me, no way. I couldn't handle it. But I had a great divorce. And so, yeah, there's gifts, no regrets. And that was one of the things with this podcast is that I wanted to convey to people, like with all the things that we've been through here and there, really, for your young people, you're going to get through it. You won't even remember the details of the worst part of what's happening right now in 15 years. So, yeah, and it just, after a while, it just doesn't matter.
All right, Cheryl. Well, I hope you don't think of me as any different after this conversation.
I'm just going to say if I slip and call you sugar baby instead of Carol, you'll forgive me.
Oh, God.
Or Cubby. No, I don't think any differently of you. Like I said, it's a big age span. It's pretty shocking,
Yeah,
to be honest. Like I said, I'm glad you have fond memories.
So, Cheryl, this has been great, a great conversation. Thanks for bringing up the topic and for hearing me out and letting me share my story.
Oh,
It's been
yeah.
a pleasure.
You know I like a juicy story. And this May December one was juicy.
Oh, yeah. So I'll talk to you next week.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Cheryl. Bye bye.
Bye.
Carolyn, Cheryl, thank you. Carolyn, Cheryl, thank you.